The clock is ticking and the deadline is looming as yet another summer of transfer activity heads towards its conclusion for Swansea City. The Swans have already signed Bersant Celina, Barrie McKay, Asoro, Dhanda and Jordi Govea, while there have been no shortage of outgoings in the wake of relegation from the Premier League. If there are to be any further permanent additions, then they will need to be wrapped up by 5 p.m. on Thursday, but clubs in the EFL will still have the chance to complete loan moves with a view to buy up until the end of August. So what can we expect to see from Swansea in the coming days and weeks? Here, we take a look at where things currently stand for Graham Potter and his squad. What they need: Swansea City manager Graham Potter plenty. Celina, McKay and Asoro and Dhanda all made encouraging debuts at Sheffield United on the weekend, but there are a number of areas in Potter's squad in which Swansea are worryingly light on numbers and genuine depth. Central midfield is one clear example, with Jay Fulton and Tom Carroll the only fit and available options to fill the two deep-lying roles at Bramall Lane on the weekend. Leroy Fair is still a little way off full fitness and a return from a ruptured Achilles, and Swansea would find themselves with a serious headache if further injuries strike them in that position. Martin Olsen was rushed back at left-back following his time at the World Cup, and, while Matt Grimes has filled in capably, Swansea could do with some specialist cover on the defensive flanks. Up front is also a concern. Ollie McBurnie, assuming Jordan Ayew completes his exit, is the only fit striker, with Wilfred Boney not close to a return as yet. So there are no shortage of gaps. Potter has been clear that Swansea are unlikely to address everything and sort out all issues in one summer, but you sense a midfielder and a striker are a necessity. They appear reasonably well covered defensively should Federico Fernandez stay, but a departure for the Argentinian would leave Swansea needing to do business there too. What we expect them to do: Ryan Woods of Brentford is a firm target at the time of writing. It is the midfield positions that look to be the main focus as the ongoing saga over the swoop for Brentford midfielder Ryan Woods continues to drag on. Swansea had also hoped to bring in Jairo Redwald as part of the deal, potentially taking Jordan Ayew to Crystal Palace, but that looks increasingly unlikely, with the Dutchman not sold on a move to the Championship barely a year after getting his big move from Ajax to the Premier League. Swansea are assessing striking options, but the sense is that additions to aid McBurnie may well take the form of loan acquisitions, with Manchester City's Lucas Enmeka among those being considered. Full-back signings are also under consideration. Potential targets: Manchester City's Lucas Enmeka is on Swansea's radar. Woods looks to be the key target for Potter as he looks to bolster that midfield area. The 24-year-old was left out of Brentford's squad against Rotherham at the weekend and has been distracted by the uncertainty over his future. The manner in which he plays for Brentford looks an ideal fit for the template Potter is trying to put in place. But there has been no agreement on that front at the time of writing. You get the sense the outcome of the deal for Woods is going to be defining in how this window is assessed. Bring him in to give Potter the playmaker he wants on the back of a fine second-half performance on the weekend, and the shoots of positivity will grow. Scott McKenna has torn his hamstring, failed to do so, and the club hierarchy can expect to face strong criticism given they have recouped substantial sums for a number of players so far and the wage bill has been slashed. Defensively, Swansea had been interested in Yeovil's Tom James, but the defender has had a tough few days after seeing a move to West Brom collapse and then being sent off in the Glovers' opening day loss to Barrie. Aberdeen centre-half Scott McKenna has been watched by the Swans, but a £10 million asking price was considered steep, and the Scotland international has now suffered a torn hamstring that is set to sideline him for up to 8 weeks. Potential outgoing Swansea City player Sam Clucas could be leaving this week. Sam Clucas had looked set to bring his miserable Liberty stint to an end when a fee was agreed with Burnley, and the midfielder headed to Lancashire to wrap up the move. However, it has hit a stumbling block over personal terms, and the deal now appears unlikely to go through unless a compromise can be reached. Burnley are understood to have been unwilling to meet Kluka's wage demands. The indications are that without Kluka's making a Swansea exit, the Woods signing is less likely to happen, but talks are continuing over a deal for the ex-Shrewsbury man. Swansea also have other interest in Klukas besides that from Burnley and believe a deal to sell him could still be agreed. Ayew did not train towards the end of last week as talks continue over a transfer to Crystal Palace. It is understood that deal could yet be cash only, with Riedwald seemingly reluctant to make the move to South Wales in return, but nothing is set in stone yet on that front. Reading have declared an interest in Jay Fulton, and the Scot could be allowed to move to Swansea's championship rivals as long as they can line up a replacement to avoid leaving Potter with even fewer resources in the centre of the park. The future of Fernandes is also far from certain. The Argentinian had spoken of wanting to play top-flight football, but there have been suggestions he could be prepared to stay. Newcastle had made an offer to loan the former Napoli man, but that was tuned down. Premier League interest in a permanent deal could yet see him leave. There are also set to be departures out wide, given Asoro, Celina and McKay can all play out wide. Potter told Wales Online last week that there could well be outgoing movement, and it was notable that Wayne Routledge and Luciano Narsing were not involved at all against Sheffield United. "It's a possibility we might lose players there, of course," Potter had said. "You're always working on the possibility that might happen. It would be fair to say there might be some movement in those areas, stuff that may happen after deadline day." Luciano Narsing in action against Everton. Image, Hugh Evans Picture Agency. Swansea have yet to make any loan moves this summer, and it should be expected that they will be doing business in that market once the window for permanent signings shuts on Thursday. Clubs are allowed to have up to 8 loan players on their books, but a maximum of 5 are allowed in a match-day squad and no more than 4 can be from any one club. Of those 4, only 2 are allowed to be over the age of 23. With midfield seemingly the priority, it looks likely to be the case that defensive cover and additional striking options could come in the form of loan signings. Of course, should a midfielder sign permanently before Thursday, there is every chance of another player in that position arriving on a temporary basis too. Swansea can still move players out to clubs on the continent or in the EFL themselves, meaning some of the younger members of the squad may well be moved out to gain first-team experience. Additionally, that would leave potential exits for Bony and Narsing on the table, given the pair have been offered to clubs in Turkey, among others, over recent months.